What is up, everybody? Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Welcome back to our Holiday Cartridge Talk series. Guys, you remember the movie Back to the Future 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty McFly goes back in time, and kind of at the grand finale, he's on the stage playing some just insane rock and roll electric guitar riff.
Yeah.
And then the crowd goes silent. It's absolute crickets. And he says, I guess you guys aren't ready for this, but your kids are going to love it. I feel like that is a parallel story to the cartridge that we're going to talk about today, which is indeed a lead balloon. So leady, Ryan, we couldn't even get one here to talk about it. We've got a couple on the table here. We're bracketing this thing.
When you say we have a couple on the table, it's not even what we're talking about. These are
Mark.
Other cartridges.
These are other cartridges that are some old, some I would say pretty darn new.
Yeah.
Relatively, yeah.
And this one that we're talking about kind of falls right in the middle of the whole mix.
Mark came down to my desk. This was, I think, shortly after we had selected the cartridges for the what am I trying to say? Holiday Cartridge Talk. I almost said Holiday Cartridge Talk.
Ooh.
Holiday Cartridge Talk. And he goes, hey, found some Remington 38 AR on Gunbroker. How much was it?
Okay, well, it in fact, Ryan, I think it didn't. Now, was it a real deal? It wasn't. It was a website not familiar with.
Okay,
right. One where you're like, should I click on this?
Did you click the link?
I did. It was. It said $499.
Yeah.
For an box.
So I thought that's what I thought initially, and I was like, guys, we're just gonna kind of have to go without here. No, it was for a lot of 500, where in fact, to me, it became a very good deal then. But we didn't need 500; we needed one.
Yeah, but if we had 500, we'd have built the gun.
You should have never told me that.
Why?
Because I kind of am thinking what Jim's thinking right now. So I went to AmmoSeek, and if you've never been to AmmoSeek, I use AmmoSeek all the time.
Sure.
It was still for sale the other day.
Nothing found. No major retailer in AmmoSeek's massively powerful search bot.
Oh yeah, we kind of casually said it. We're talking about the 30 RAR today.
Yep.
That's
what we're talking about.
That's the topic. That's the cartridge that we're talking about today.
You can't.
No, it's nowhere.
It doesn't exist.
Except for suspicious, unheard of website with a lot of 500.
What?
Right.
For less than $1 around.
Right.
I'm sure.
I think we're glad I didn't make that purchase.
Yeah.
We're not. You are.
No, I think I think the only thing you get out of that is your credit card info going somewhere.
Yeah, somebody somewhere would have been delighted if you would have made that purchase because they would have ended up with some new shoes. Yeah,
Couple of Target gift cards.
It's
right.
It's
sir, no, do not validate the gift card.
It's gone.
It's gone, but it's just one of those lead balloons that now I look back and I'm like,
holy Moses.
You know, in one of my printouts here, pretty good explanation of what happened. But golly,
fate and circumstance cut this thing to pieces.
I mean, fate, circumstance. I mean, talk about an example of timing is everything.
Just imagine a very handsome cartridge,
right
in between here. That was the same COAL as this 110 Tech TX loading from Barnes, fit in the same magazine. Approach the performance values of this cartridge over here.
The first one you were referring to was the 300 Blackout.
That's right, yeah.
The second one you were referring to that it approached in performance, apparently, was the 308 Winchestershire.
Yep.
Here's all I have is this picture of it.
Not to scale.
Not to scale. But it is to scale because it's next to your typical 223 round, right?
That is a handsome thing.
It's very nice.
It looks like it's just like if you ask somebody to draw a 30 arc.
Yeah. Jim, it's funny you say that.
Right. Printed in black and white intentionally because this thing is a thing of the past.
That's very dramatic. That's Mark selected noir.
Very noir of you, yeah.
Guys, this is a cool one
He's
with
got
a lot of
art. He's got a little artist in
A
him.
little emo.
Ryan, this thing fits in an AR-15,
Yeah,
which was
very well.
really starting to gain some steam. And kicking a 125 grainer out at 2,800 feet per second.
Yeah.
There ain't no flies on that.
No. I honestly, I mean, I would have loved to see what we talked about the 300 blackout. It's like, I love 300 blackout. I have multiple 300 blackouts. I know that none of my supersonic loadings in my 300 blackout are doing that. None of them. That's the one downside of it, is like sometimes I'm kind of like, boy, if you could
just a
I could
little
snooze
more.
you up a little bit.
Just a skosh.
Well, and that's why I wanted to have this 300 blackout on here for discussion. Number one, incredibly popular. Jim,
Very good round.
you have two. People really like it. Using it in a variety of applications. It made it.
Yep.
How different is the 30 RAR from the 300 blackout?
Are we talking dimensions, performance?
Everything.
Kind of all the things.
Okay, so talk about dimensions. I had to Google this because I couldn't remember. Little backstory: my involvement in the 30 RAR, the outfit I worked for prior to here, I think we made every one of them, the uppers and lowers for them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool, and they were like very elusive, very small quantities. Every so often, you'd see a box squeak out. You're like, "Oh, are those RARs?" And they had some super proprietary stuff about them, and otherwise they were standard, basically from the mouth back. And it was a neat thing. And then we had cartridges there, of course, and it was such a cute case. And I was like, "What bolt head diameter is that?" Because it's bigger than a 308.
Mm-hmm.
It looks big in that picture next to the 223.
And I don't remember what the parent case is, but the bolt head's 492.
This article from written by Richard Mann
Okay.
says it was loosely based on the 450 Bushmaster.
What?
Okay, the cartridge was loosely based on the 450 Bushmaster and 284 Winchester. It was short and fat and had a rebated but still large rim to make it work. That's what he's saying.
Oh. That's weird because 450 Bushmaster and 284 Winchester are 473 bolt face. It's like a 492, I think.
Well, maybe that's why he says
maybe
loosely,
I'm wrong about this, Mark.
based.
Consult your notes. Look for the numbers 492. I'm filling the airwaves. Point is, so the cartridge is a short fat. Think of it kind of along the same principles as the Wisdom or the very doomed Wizism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This
That's a great
article is-
page right there. Honestly, can we just show this to the camera?
Yeah.
This one.
That's where you put
Printed
your
at
notes.
10:36 a.m.
That's where you put your notes.
It timestamps that. That's damning. So a short fat, and honestly, like as I think about this, Mark's analogy with Back to the Future. Let's clear the air. How do you come up with that?
Well, that's what pops into my head. I'm like, if we came out with this now, people would love it.
That's what
I think they'd be bananas.
That apparition just arrives there. That's why you.
That's not what you guys immediately thought of,
That's why you freestyle rap so good,
Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got an audio file, a wave file,
A wave file.
the other day from a certain international man of mystery inside of this building, and it was
MC Ryan has betrayed me.
it was an exceptional freestyle, Mark Portman. Which is, you're 100% correct. If we look now, what is in vogue in the standard AR platforms? The ARC cartridges. This is a great example.
Right.
It's an intermediate case, goofy bolt face that thankfully we're over that hump, I think, socially. And we're starting to see bolt guns released in them, which I'm obviously very excited about. But we have this, it's not quite what a standard cartridge performance gets us, but really close. And like appreciable performance values, which I really, really enjoy. So I've no secret, I've been shooting 6 ARC for a little bit now, falling in love with the cartridge every time I handle one of the cases, every time I pull the trigger. This is very akin to that, except more. So as Mark had mentioned, 125 grain 30 caliber bullet at 2,800 feet per second. There are going to be people who are throwing tomatoes at the radios in their vehicles right now because they're like, well, yeah, but it's a 125. Let's not forget that bullet technology erases the detractors, or does a really good job of nearly erasing the detractors of light for caliber bullets. And as somebody who has slayed a multitude of four-legged critters with light for caliber, especially in the 30 caliber pallet, 130 grain Barnes TTSX, that bullet is wickedly efficient at killing things. Barnes makes a 110 variant, a 120 variant, and of course the 130. Sierra makes a 125. Hornady makes a 110. Nosler makes a 125. All these really great bullets.
I saw I think a lot of the ammo loaded for it was 150s as well. I think there was some 150s.
Yeah, like a 150 soft point, 150
Yeah.
metal case, 123, which is a very common bullet weight for 7.62 by 39, which unfortunately this got looped into as like a relative comparison to, and that is just not the case.
Like I was using 127 grainers out of my 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
And they were moving at 2770.
Mhm.
And I'm absolutely just like gobsmacking dills out there this last year. I mean, like dropping them in their tracks.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, the thing about my 300 Blackout was that I was like, okay, I'm pushing 150 grain soft points at like 1,700 feet per second. I'm like, that'll hurt. That'll make something hurt. But would I like more? Would I like to be shooting something over 2,800 feet per second with a significant bullet construction that's going to drop them like does the 6.5 Creedmoor that I go out with zero qualms and like 0 second thoughts about in an AR? Yes.
Somebody will say, but sectional density. Sectional density.
Schmency.
Thank you. It's like we finish our own sentences, each other's sentences. Yeah. So it really was sweet. But man, it hit a rough patch for the company that owned them and the companies they owned. We had some socio-political
Right.
stuff going on at that point in time in our.
Can we explain?
Well, I mean, it's just like, I mean, this happened. You're not even taking sides in politics talking about it.
Barack Obama was the president. The Remington Arms Corporation was gobbling up other brands,
Right.
and changing things, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. It was the perfect storm of cataclysm. ARs were on the chopping block. The eclectic cartridge that was the 30 RAR, expensive to produce, somewhat proprietary in nature. Again, tumultuism within the organization, and then the looming fear of bans and confiscations and civil unrest.
I'm not going to be able to get an AR anymore.
Correct.
I better get one.
Like-
are people going to reach for this kind of newfangled thing that actually probably likely not even aware of?
Yeah.
Or are they going to reach for
Right. The old standby.
The old standby.
Dead before it even took its first breath.
That is too bad.
And from a retailer standpoint, am I going to stock this, or am I going to stock as many of these as I can, knowing that they're going to be gone before I even receive them?
Yeah,
So true. It's so true. And that is such a bummer.
it is.
When did we
Like
keep talking about
pre-
300 Blackout.
like
when
right
did the 300 Blackout? I know it was like the 300 AC, the 300 Whisper, there's all that stuff. But like, when did that was a little bit, only like a couple years.
prior? Yeah, not terribly. I'm going to say 2007, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just out of the weird time too. That's the coolest part about, like, for me, entering the industry, which was like late 04. It was just after the eclipse of the assault weapons ban, which is nuts to think about.
Which one are you talking about right now? Because like
The assault weapons ban.
Yeah, we're just talking about the industry in general.
like going back in time. So late 04, early 05, the eclipse of the assault weapons ban. All of a sudden, anybody can buy an AR.
okay, I see what you're saying.
But the AR market was just an absolute like
Upside down.
disaster.
Yep. And I mean, it was still weird, which is interesting to think about. Like, I had a rotating rack of ARs, just a small one. We didn't stock a ton of them at the time because they really weren't popular. They were close enough to the flame of the AWB that people just still thought you couldn't own them. And I'd have guys come in and be like, "Do you guys have like special licenses to sell those?" It's like, no, like you can just buy one now. They're like, no, you can't. They're illegal. It's like, well, it's not that they were illegal. They had to be refeatured and magazine restrictions and this, but nobody sold them because it was such a rigmarole.
Well, and culturally, at least in the world in which I lived, which would have been like, the outdoor hunting, sporting world, they were just starting to become mainstream.
Yeah.
But really not. Like, I got my first AR, it probably was 2008.
Sure.
Which I guess is, right about this timeline of, Obama coming into office and things like that.
A lot of people got their first AR in 2008.
Right.
Maybe two.
Yeah.
But even then, just from like a form factor, I wasn't anti. And then just to be very clear, I am the furthest thing from that.
Ryan said he's anti-AR.
He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it in the way that...
Fine guns, don't like them.
There. That doesn't mean you're anti, right?
Everybody.
I just remember when he said it that one time.
Everybody should have a crate full of them, but they're not my jam. They're not my bag, baby.
No, they're unexciting.
Yeah, correct. Sterile.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but it just like culturally, like it was just like it was kind of like that was like the tree of ARs was budding.
Yeah. I'm still like racking my brain so much about like we had AR-10s, which are still weird,
very,
but people still are interested in them.
Yep.
But there's your 30 cal option in an AR-ish platform, and then you had the 223-556. The 300 Blackout, I don't know, somehow managed to just like stay a thing and people globbed onto it. And there was all this talk about like how amazing it was with a suppressor. But I'm still thinking, how did the 300 Blackout, you could use the same stuff, essentially minus the barrel.
Yep. Correct.
So that's got to be a huge component to it because I would love to stuff a 220 grain bullet in this case and shoot it subsonic.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because that was a question I was going to ask. How difficult would it be to turn this into something that's going to shoot subs?
Not hard.
Can't be.
It's easier.
I mean,
it's easier in 308. And the only reason I say that is just if you're working with diminished case volumes in the beginning, it's much easier to control.
Right.
And so a 308 doesn't have a big case. I mean, like, who am I kidding, right? It's a short action case. It's pretty modest. It's far more voluminous than, say, the 300 AAC contemporary next to it.
Sure.
This is a nice in-between. Some fast-moving pistol powder, whether it's H110, low gun, something like that. Bob's your uncle. Ready to go. Not a big deal at all. And, in fact, we have talked about doing some testing here, low-velocity testing, and the intention or plan was to use short format cases like 30BR.
Right.
Or 7BR, or 6BR, 65BR, 338BR, something like that. Only because we can control them.
Right.
Whereas using a full-size case like a 308 is far more challenging and more difficult. Anyway, the 300 Blackout hit at exactly the right time because it was before things were nuts and it was while suppressors were becoming mainstream.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to change a lot about your gun to do it.
Correct. Yes. Now, that whole change in things about your gun to do it, these days, I think that's really funny. That statement is really funny amongst the AR community. And I say that because how many ARs do you know that are the same? Everybody's dangling their own little accoutrement on there. We're getting weird forends. We're getting weird buttstocks, different grips, bad levers, different magazine releases, unusual bolt carriers, different ways to charge them, gas systems that are eclectic and adjustable. And
and how many people too are actually going about like, I have one upper and I change out all the stuff on the upper. Like I have an upper receiver and I like remove the barrel nut and I put different barrels. It's like, no, you don't.
Right.
You just buy a whole put together upper and you just click it on.
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself. Don't kid me.
Yeah. And then you wind up buying a lower for that upper later on. So then it's just a whole nother gun. You never have to even take the takedown pins out.
Yeah. the number of tools that would be required to amend a rifle, and in 30 RARs maybe a little bit different, because I actually think there was a difference with the barrel extension. And I could be misquoting that completely. I've got to go back to 2010 memory. But to change from a standard 5.56 operating system to, we'll just pick on 6.5 Grendel or 6 arc. We're talking about 2 pins, or hell, well, yeah, you got to take the upper off. Okay, 2 pins, pop your bolt out, put it in a barrel vise or an action vise, take your rail off, detension the barrel nut, slip the gas system off, new barrel, gas system back on, barrel nut, new bolt, done.
Yeah.
We're not doing an EV swap. We're not doing a diesel conversion. I'm trying to pander to you a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I got a little excited.
I know.
Well, not the EV
Yeah,
swap.
not the EV
Uninterested.
We're not trying to do a diesel conversion.
I would swap an EV out.
Right. I want
So you could swap it. It's just how you're
sure,
interpreting
yeah.
the swap.
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So anyway,
Swap Shop. You ever
not a
buy
big
anything
deal.
off Swap Shop?
Oh, I listened to a lot of Swap Shop with my grandpa in the garage.
Yeah.
Called it an Evinrude 5.5. Less than 20.
I hope it's still going. I don't know.
I hope so too. Anyway, so 300 AC got super hot because suppressors were starting to become a thing. That was still a mystifying part of life for me at that point in time. Living in Minnesota, suppressors were like a big no-no. And when we had suppressors at my last job, we had more suppressors than like the state of Minnesota's law enforcement community had. And it was like we had enriched uranium in a jar just sitting there. But a lot of states were allowing it, and people were having fun. Like shooting a suppressed 300 AAC is a neat experience. If you've never done it, you're like, oh my gosh, that was really neat. And then you could pivot over to supersonic ammo, and you could shoot 300 yards with it, and you could kill deer and hogs with it, and that's cool.
Yeah, but you always wish you had more.
That's true. This cartridge, with the unfortunates of its timing, and then all the other contributing factors surrounding its timing.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, had a turbulent home
Yeah.
at the time.
It wasn't even that the cartridge didn't function. It wasn't that the cartridge didn't meet the posted specs, which we see all the time now. Like cartridge comes out, everybody's like, that's the new whiz bang. It's like 240 feet per second off. But it's all of the things about the cartridge were right. It's just everything else around it.
I'm going to bring up one other thing
Yeah.
that was just kind of stepped on its neck a little bit, and you brought up posted specs. And in this article from Richard Mann, he said, when introduced, Remington actually incorrectly posted the 300-yard velocity in place of the muzzle velocity.
Oh, no.
Oh, that was a whoops.
That's going to...
Which makes it look like nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, what? Why?
Goodness
Why?
gracious.
This is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
It's like when you come up with a Wildcat called a 6.5 BC and you dramatically download it so you don't blow your face off the first time you do it. And then everyone's like, well, the muzzle velocity not that high.
And you did it the day before you were leaving.
Yeah, you did the day before leaving for a Wyoming hunt where you're going to rely on that cartridge to shoot 3 antelope. Yeah.
I got it up to 3,060 feet per second that day.
I mean, it's still...
It's only got 340 feet per second more potential, but anyway.
But hey, why would we continue to work on that? All right, I got one more thing out of this article that I want to say. And I think it just points to, like, again, the timing. This thing came out, no 300 blackout, no 300 hammer, no 6 arc, right? And again, I'm underlining, I don't want to take credit for Richard's article here. I'm underlining things out of his article. And far exceeds the capabilities of the 30-30. And I think that can put that in perspective for a lot of folks.
300 Blackout wasn't out in 2008?
That's what
Was
they're
it called
saying.
something else, though? 300 Whisper?
It was probably still 300 Whisper, because I only remember, now it could be just when I heard about it, but I did not hear about the blackout until I was at Vortex, and I did not start at Vortex
maybe
until
it wasn't
2009.
Sammy. Maybe it wasn't Sammy there. It was because it was Sammied as, well, no, Sammy's 300 Whisper.
Okay.
But 300 Blackout and 300 Whisper are different cartridges.
And I also remember actually reading an article about the 300 Whisper when I was at Vortex, which probably would have been like 09, 010-ish, something like that. And then only after reading that article did I start reading about the 300 Blackout. So I think it's a little bit later than that.
Yeah.
But I guess where I'm going with that, though, like as a hunting cartridge,
Yeah.
right? Which I think this was initially designed. I think it actually has potential in some other avenues as well.
Sure.
My Lord, and it fits in an AR.
Yeah.
What's not to like?
I'm really goofed up about 300. It is Whisper that I'm thinking of, 100% Whisper, because I built a 300 Whisper for a good buddy of mine in 2010 off of a rejected upper receiver that got the wrong colored anodizing out of it, so it was in the scrap bin, but it was still correct. I mean, it was just the wrong shade. It meant to be black. It turned out it was purple. He didn't care. Built a 300 Whisper on it. That was 2010. Anyway, so here's this round that, I mean, honestly, like pick an analog 300 Savage or 308 Winchester Light. That's about what it'll do. If you hand load it, it'll do more. I think it was probably a 50 to mid 50s PSI cartridge. So again, kind of like how there's two sets of data for 6 ARC now. So like Hornady's very forward with this, which I love, is they publish bolt gun data. They publish gas gun data. 2 different things. This cartridge could benefit from both of those things too.
You want to gas it up, put it in a bolt gun.
That's right. There's nothing, unfortunately, like it in that space right now. I make a what's the word? Surmising, what's the word?
I don't know. Just say a word that most normal people say.
Surmunzel. I surmise that there's this really interesting cartridge family out right now, the ARC.
Right.
In the ARC, presently is 22, 6, and 338.
Big gap.
We argue that 6.5 Grendel is ARC, but 6.5 Grendel is a completely different cartridge, right? It's been around for a long time. Bill Alexander, thank you. There was
7 ARC. Just kidding.
I don't know. There's not a lot of good 7 bullets.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. There was kind of a 30 ARC or a 30 Grendel, depending on how you want to look at it. I've got a couple cases downstairs. And it was a special project done by the United States Army Marksmanship Unit to hit major power factor for USPSA multi-gun. They called it the 30 Gremlin.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
Really handsome case. Very similar design. Not quite the same performance value, but not far off. That would be like the kind of closest thing that we can get, unless we can figure out how to put cartridges like 30 Dasher, which is just a 6.5 Dasher or 6 Dasher necked up to 30. 30 BR, which this cartridge borrows a lot of similarities from, into that platform. And that'd be pretty cool.
If I wanted one of these right now,
Yeah.
let's say, and I'm just like, right now, don't care if something else comes out, whatever. I've got an AR lower.
Yep.
I've got a lot of magazines, like aluminum or steel, metal
They had
mags.
a different follower.
Different follower in the magazine.
I think you had to use a 450 Bushmaster follower, maybe.
Okay. But then I would need to find a bolt, but same carrier. Do you think you probably have to mess around with the buffer system, maybe a hair?
Possibly.
And then barrel and gas system and all
I mean,
that.
what would
And then
you-
obviously, and then I'm loading ammo.
I don't know how to do the ammo. I don't know where to get brass.
That's what I was going
components.
to say. Where are you going to get the brass?
Wow.
Yeah, because you can't. It's not one of those things where I'll just get this brass and
Right.
then make it. Yeah, you're
You're
on your own.
I'd be more inclined to say let's build a 30 Gremlin or let's build a 30 BR AR.
Why not just build a 30 ARC?
That'd be a 30 Gremlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mostly.
When they came out with the 338 ARC,
Yeah.
and I haven't looked at the numbers connected to it all that much yet.
Oh, it was pretty impressive.
I think it is, but in my if you were to tell me which one was next, I would have thought it was a 30 ARC.
I kind of figured it was going to be 338.
338 made sense because of the 8.6,
Yeah,
Okay.
but a 30 arc would be cool.
it would. And I mean, I think it's a cartridge you would treat as a really, really good deer, hog,
Right.
bear.
It seems like kind of a great potential for a dual machine.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
I mean, like compare this real quick to the 6.8 SPC.
Sure. 6.8 SPCs, smaller bullets, similar bullet weight, 85 to 120, maybe 115,
Right.
110.
Kind of supposed to be a little dual.
Yeah.
But But you're not shooting 150 grainer.
Nope.
You're not going to pack it with
you're
a
not.
220 grainer and send it subsonic.
You're also not shooting a 110 at 2,800 feet per second either.
Yeah.
So, and that's just case volume alone. Oh yeah, now you look at it, you're like, this is a really cool idea, and it is. It's one of the saddest lead balloons that I'm aware of, because it was actually really good.
You know what? If you're listening out there and you were the guy who came up with this thing, led the team that came up with this thing, and it just we commend you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's not your fault.
It's cool. It's super cool. And it has a tremendous amount of potential. And just, again, following the veins as we are now of I'll call it the literal craze of micro cartridges. And for a good reason, right? Makes a lot of sense. And there's some not micro cartridges that are really cool right now too, like 7 PRC super hot, 6.5 PRC super hot. Those aren't micro cartridges. Those are big boys. But Hornady just made 6GT an available offering.
Oh, sure.
Yep. So there's a smaller than 6 Creedmoor, smaller than 243, hyper efficient competition cartridge, similar kind of situation going on, a little more snooze than something like a 6 dash or 6.5 dash. Yeah, I mean, we're primed for this kind of thing.
Man, I want this.
I don't know if you want this one.
I want
Something
this
like
if
that. You want
it
it
were
to
a
be a
thing.
thing.
I want it to be a thing, and then I would want it.
Yeah.
But I like the 300 blackouts of mine would become toys, and the 308s would become like not as versatile.
I'd be curious.
And I would just be like, that done.
I'd be curious what like the recoil difference would be between like a 300 blackout and this.
I mean, you could do the math, right? So I think these are 2,300 feet per second.
No idea.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah. And 23, 25, somewhere there. The 30 RAR would be able to push that because that's a 110. I mean, 2750, 2850, somewhere in there. I mean, significant performance increase, right? To the point where I don't even know if that's the right bullet for that. I think the 110 TTSX would be a better choice, stronger bullet. This bullet's designed for very low velocity expansion. Like we've breached that threshold and we're going to start shearing pedals. So yeah, there would be more. There would be substantially more. It's still in a gas gun. Like an AR-10 does not have an undue amount of recoil firing full house 308.
Right.
So it would be less than that. And it would be in a gun that is nice to hold on to instead of the AR-10 that is like a aluminum canoe.
I mean, when I look at with this
Mark is
existing,
hurt.
like why would the AR-10 even have a reason to exist is what I'm saying.
Mark, that's a really good question.
That's a tough question you just asked, Mark.
And the short answer is ammo availability of 7.62 by 51, like mil SERP rounds, like 147 ball, 150 ball.
Okay.
308 has been on scene forever. Like if we had to go back to the drawing board and we had to develop an intermediate cartridge to do the things that an AR-10 was destined or designed to do, and we didn't have the legacy support of the cartridge, this makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yep.
I just think like I'm picturing a world where this is established enough where a person goes to their gun shop,
Fleet Farm,
and they're like, well, I could get a 30 RAR. I want a 30 cal AR. Should I get the AR-10 or the 30 RAR? I know which one I would reach for.
Oh, you see about the 30 RAR. Well, let me ask you this, Mark. You ever plan on putting like a 22 upper on it? Oh,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, I do.
You can.
9mm upper? Oh, you can.
Yeah, I might.
223 upper? Oh, yeah, you can. And all the other things that fit a short frame AR? Yep, you can. So there's more utility in the platform. Hey, man.
This is a very sad lead balloon.
It is.
22
It is the
6
saddest. It's the saddest lead balloon.
338 arc upper on it.
It's the saddest lead balloon.
It's the
And
saddest
what's
one.
crazy, until we started talking about it, like I was like, maybe I'd heard about it years ago, right? Didn't hit my radar. Also, probably during when it came out, I wasn't super into ARs, but
I think it might be on the top 5 of the lead balloon list that I
Do you think that
put
you
out.
were ever super into ARs, Mark? It's fine. We'll move on.
You had one early.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 2008
You had
when I got my
one.
first one.
I wouldn't consider that super into ARs, Mark.
Pretty risque move, though. You know, young guy like that in the industry. Now remember, yeah. I mean, think about it. I saw a vintage Fall This Year video playing on loop of Mark Boardman the other day,
Yeah.
wearing like a button down.
Yeah, he did used to come a lot
And
more.
some nice slacks, no ball cap.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
No hat, Mark.
when he got home,
Different man.
he put on his Fila jacket. I'm sure he's got one, and he had an AR. That's who he was. Okay, listen to rap.
I feel
rap.
like you're defending Mark right now.
Well,
We just did a spaghetti shootout for December, and you're like defending him all of a sudden.
Well,
I feel bad for beating
Because
him.
I would like to believe that is acting with the meanness.
correct.
Mm.
Yes.
Got it. It's not acting with me, Mark.
I don't. This is.
I know.
This is an interesting thing.
Yeah,
We
this has
talk
been
about.
made very clear.
We talk about cartridges that didn't make it, fell into obscurity. Most of them that we've ever talked about, I know somebody who has one.
Right.
Like I could call that person and be like, "Hey, you ever shoot that thing?" Like, "Oh, sometimes," or "Nah, not really." But I probably know somebody who has one.
A lot of them are here. I mean, we've had some pretty obscure stuff, and you go
Yep.
downstairs, you're like, "Hey, do you got one of these?" Sometimes it's, "Yeah, I got one," and it's at their desk. Sometimes it's like, "No, but you need to talk to so and so. They have one."
Yeah.
And this is like oftentimes like on a moment's notice.
Yep. I
Yes.
I don't know anybody who has or does own one.
If you do, come on out. Let's shoot it.
Yeah.
If you'll let us.
We just get one trigger pull.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah. I would encourage
it a
anybody.
lot.
Like, I mean, we always, at the end of the podcast, give us your thoughts, and which we want, and I love, and I don't respond to all the comments, but I certainly read nearly all the comments.
Did you catch that one about getting a suppressor?
Yeah, I maybe saw it. Yeah, I breezed by it.
Nice.
But I do, like, if somebody out there has one, has been shooting it, has hunted it, is it just like your favorite and you're scratching your head too? Like, why?
I want a bolt
Maybe you
gun.
can't shoot it anymore.
I want a bolt gun in it.
Why not?
Oh, boy, that'd be kind of interesting. Wouldn't it?
Dang right.
Why not?
Oh. Huh.
Oh.
Did we leave anything on the table with the 30
No.
30 RAR?
Other
You know-
than a big fat request to Hornady to make a 30 arc.
Yeah.
The cartridge that could, but somehow couldn't.
And then just in the background of the 30 arc, please, when you make that, I've always loved their like announcement videos. 'Cause they got like flash camera angles. Just the black and white of the 30 RAR on the wall. Just like a nice frame. Just like, hey, he was a good man. Today,
Or maybe just like a 30 arc commercial where it's all black and white and in the arms of the angels singing.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden it says, thanks to your request, we came out with the next, best thing,
Yep.
30 arc.
Look at this. Look at just this.
I know this is a
Big empty spot there.
big empty space
Might as well be a hole in the heart.
in our lives.
It is. Yep, you nailed it. It's
Two
a-
great cartridges missing. Missing, shall we call it a child cartridge?
The Goldilocks.
Yeah. Oh, 308. You look really nice. Thanks, 300 Blackout.
Yeah, you
Let's
seem-
go get ice cream.
Yeah, you
and then
seem
we would
nice,
get
too.
30 RAR.
Mhm.
That's what we want.
Yeah, you ever watch Netflix?
I was gonna say, you want to Netflix and chill?
Mama bullet meet Papa bullet. Now go in the safe and make
it-
more.
30 RAR.
There you have it.
Damn fine cartridge.
Well, thanks, guys.
Gone too soon.
Hopefully, maybe we'll inspire some sort of movement here. I'd almost be shocked if
If you're out there and you're
there's
listening
always
to
something
this and,
coming down the pipe.
and you've been keeping this in the safe because you've been ashamed to bring it out into the light, come out to the light. Let us know about your 30 RAR and its wonderfulness.
Like, what if you bought one and weren't a reloader and you didn't really save your brass? Like, what are you doing right now?
I think it's the same
Selling
thing
it
that
to
all the
us.
guys that bought the Remington Etronics cartridges, all the guys that bought 327 Federals, 32 NAAs, 25 NAAs, and a whole laundry list of cartridges but this one is different. This one makes sense.
It's like the person who bought this was actually super knowledgeable and made the right call, and then they
just weren't ready.
They got screwed.
They just weren't ready
Hey,
for
you know
the
what? I'll say this publicly.
ground to fall out.
450 Bushmaster was out. That cartridge didn't make sense at the time. It lived. Barely, but it lived.
Yeah, how did that thing scrape by?
Yeah,
Because of
seriously,
states
that-
like Indiana, Iowa,
Yeah, pretty
Ohio.
but it scraped by for a long time until that happened, though.
I think, honestly, Mark, it was
Like it was on the cartridge life straw. Just
it was starting to smell.
yeah,
Okay, it was starting to smell, and somehow they put the paddles back on it and struck a rhythm and managed to get the gangrene taken care of, and it lives on. It's a fine cartridge. Don't get me wrong, but I remember when those came out, I was like, "What?"
I mean, it fit. It was a big pill that fit in an AR, right? I mean,
Sort of.
So if you want that,
Yeah, I don't. I want a 30 RAR. I want that.
All right.
all
We've
right.
done it.
Put a bow on it.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.